there and welcome back to another review. So what I thought we'd do, after previously reviewed Mask of the Phantasm, I thought I'd review the other movie that come with this box set of the animated series, and that is Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero. So, which is second of the movies that come with this complete collection, made in 1998. I think, though, the film was actually complete a year before, and it was meant to sort of coincide, obviously, with the Batman and Robin movie. But due to that movie's obviously poor reception, as we all know, this one was actually, I think this was actually pushed back another year before it came out, because it's almost like even this film didn't want to be associated with that film. They wanted to sort of keep it bit separate, because well, as we all know, with the reception of Batman and Robin was not that high, was not that strong. So this film come out a year later, much more simplistic in tone and narrative than, say, Mask of the Phantasm was. The movie is still very entertaining, but plays more like the thing with this movie, SubZero, is it plays more really, like you could argue, just like an extended episode of the animated series, which is not a bad thing. But it does play, it's sort of got that vibe to it where it does seem like just an extended, longer episode. And this might be a bit of a quick review, this one, as it is quite a short movie as well, clocking in at around just the 65-minute mark. And the story is quite straightforward. It's relatively simple, but we'll go through the film today and just see what happens, and I'll just give you my thoughts and opinion on it. But I will just say outright that it's obviously it's nowhere near as epic as what Mask of the Phantasm was and is, but it's still, like I said, an enjoyable sort of Batman movie nonetheless. So we see some polar bears swimming underwater in the Arctic with Mr. Freeze and just doing some fishing. Not sure how the bears hold their breath for that long. I mean, I'm not even sure if that's even possible, or how long a polar bear can hold its breath. I don't know. But again, just if you do know, let me know. Then we have this research submarine. Freeze has his dead wife Nora in cryogenic stasis and wants to find a cure for her condition. The submarine crashes through where he has set up camp, and in doing so sort of shatters her tube. All ticked off by this, Victor Freeze freezes the crew. We learn he's befriended this boy as well. There too, Kunak his name is, this kid adds nothing to the story whatsoever, and he's just a kid that is there just because, and him and Mr. Freeze have just become buddies, and maybe it's a son he never had or something, I don't know, but him and Kunak, this kid, but they sort of develop this bond, but Kunak did nothing, they don't know what to do with him whatsoever, so this kid's just there, just so he's there. So we cut to Gotham, and we have Batman and Robin thwarting some jewellery thieves, and to teach them a lesson they just throw them into a pile of garbage. The nice Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson go to this hospital fundraiser whilst Barbara Gordon as Batgirl is beating up some crooks. Bruce Wayne's such a player in this scene. He has 3 ladies all to himself. Forever is the charmer that Bruce Wayne is, just a complete and utter ladies man. So he's definitely got luck on his side that night. Whilst Dick is getting closer to Barbara. So we meet Gregory Belson, who we learn is in loads of debt. Then Barbara Gordon turns up, leaving in a huff after having a fallout with his stockbroker. Benson drives home and his car crashes on the ice that Mr. Freeze has laid there, and it confronts him. We find out that these two are they're sort of old colleagues. They've worked with each other before. I'm not sure how Mr. Freeze knew he would be at this party. I had no idea how people, if he knew he was there, and when he was leaving as well. But I think it's mentioned he did phone his secretary at some point, so I suppose that could have explained where he got the information was he was at this party. So I'm also assuming he used the submarine to sort of transport Nora as well. I was just assuming that. It's a few things we don't actually see in this movie that sort of not fill in the blanks, but I'm not sure if it's entirely explained certain things, but anyway. So it's a nice touch with the music cues, having a cover of I Have Eyes for You by the Flamingos, which were they were sort of like a doo-wop group, and that song came out in sort of the late 50s. So it's nice that this film, even though again like Mask of the Phantasm you could argue is sort of a kids film, it's nice they do put in some grown-up music here as well. So on his way home with Alfred, Bruce finds the abandoned car. Have to love how Freeze is threatening Belson help me or else, and the ball's on Bruce hey, what gets me is like Belson's like, well, it doesn't come cheap, right? He doesn't go. I mean, I know he needs cash, but Freeze has his gun right in front of his face, and Belson has got. You've got to admire this guy's balls completely, because he's like sort of, well, it doesn't come cheap. He doesn't seem to be intimidated by Mr. Freeze in the slightest. He's just like, well, pay me then, and I'll do it. So you got to admire, the testes on this guy. So it turns out Barbara Gordon is the perfect match for Freeze's wife, as she needs like an organ transplant, right? Go figure. So it just so happens Barbara Gordon is the perfect match for Freeze's wife Nora for this organ transplant. And what gets me is, out of like 18 matches they find, there's like 18 matches they could have gone for on the computer when they're looking up sort of people that are viable that could have this operation to help his wife. They just happened to pick the girl that is the chief commissioner's daughter. Now, you would think probably not going to be in your best interest going after a girl that, you're basically going to kidnap and sort of slice her open, and you happen to just pick the chief commissioner's daughter. And also, not only that, but that she's dating the partner of like the best, most substantial crime fighter in Gotham. So after they phone her apartment, her roommate tells them she's at Sean Aziz. Benson making up something that he is from the hospital and just like a routine checkup, because they're really after Barbara Gordon at this point. So you have to love how Mr. Freeze walks into the club with his suit on and his 2 polar bears. There's nothing like a subtle, slick, undercover kidnapping, is there? I mean, he just goes into this place publicly. Everyone can see him. I mean, surely they could have come up with a more subtle plan than that if they were going to kidnap Barbara Gordon. But no, they just do it in this club, like this restaurant place for sort of everybody to see. No, just do it right in front of loads of witnesses. So he takes her in this van. Robin gives chase via a motorbike. So it's a nice little cool action scene here. Not a bad little sequence at all in the slightest. It just gives that film just a bit of action, just a bit of spontaneity there, just with in terms of the action scenes. Robin loses control of the bike after Freeze freezes the road, and he sort of gets away. So naturally, Gordon is fuming and wants his daughter back, as he rightly says, a guy in a weird suit and 2 polar bears really shouldn't be all that hard to find. I mean, he does have a point there. I'd have to agree with that one. If guy's walking around in Mr. Freeze's suit and he's got 2 polar bears with him, shouldn't be all that hard to track down. Well, it's not like you could miss him anyway. So visiting Dick in the recovery room at the hospital, Bruce finds out Barbara had a rare blood type on the system, as well as the same as Nora Freeze. He was on there trying to sort of see who accessed her file last, to sort of who made the call, but finds a huge clue in the connection there. So we catch up with Barbara, who is in like this cell, and she tries to escape via air duct and comes across Nora. She does ask him a good question, like why isn't she in hospital, regarding his wife, to which Freeze simply shouts aggressively, "No hospitals," right? That's it. That's his whole reason for not taking her to hospitals, for seeking medical help. He simply says, "No hospitals." That's it. Well, at least that's cleared that one up. And the irony of where he says no hospitals, the irony of that is at the end of the movie, she does go to hospital and ends up getting saved in the hospital. Okay, thanks to Bruce Wayne, but she does end up getting saved in a hospital. So we have a long scene of her trying to escape and run away, and we find out she is on a rig sort of in the middle of nowhere in the sea. So whilst Bruce and Dick investigate to find out more about blood transfusions and cryogenics, they find out that Belson is the man they need to see, but he has gone AWOL, like Victor Freeze's sort of partner in crime. But Bruce remembers it was his car he found when driving home that night. Not sure why he didn't follow this up like the morning after, though. Like, if he found a car and he sort of knew who it belonged to, how come he didn't chase it up? How come he didn't, regardless of the case he's investigating? It's like anybody. If you find an abandoned car and somebody's ID, surely you would pursue that or contact somebody, I don't know. But he just suddenly remembers, it was his car that was abandoned. So him and Robin go to his house and find a message from his broker and trace the call. They visit him and learn he was in deep doo-doo, basically, financially, and he was back in this new drug that had side effects, so it was sort of a bad investment. Huge plot convenience is that whilst they're there, It just so happens that Belson calls them at that precise moment, saying he will have the money. Batman and Robin take a cassette recording of the conversation as there was like a foghorn. They hear something in the background. At the Batcave, they deduce it must be from this like sort of this unused oil rig or something. But they don't call him the greatest detective for nothing, but they deduce sort of basically where this sound is coming from and where his operations are. Well, where Belson is. So Freeze and Belson start to begin the operation on Barbara. She breaks free and she goes to run away again. Right, she goes to run away again. You've just tried that last time. We've established that you're on a rig and in the middle of the sea. You can't really go anywhere. You're on a used oil rig in the middle of the ocean. There is nowhere to go, Barbara. There is literally nowhere. You've tried to run away last time. The best chance you have is to run away and sort of hide somewhere and hope help does come. So there's nowhere to go. Batman and Robin arrive by Batwing, and I love how when Barbara is being shot by Belson, she is like, "Stop shooting, you idiot. These are fuel tanks." And, that is one way to speak to somebody who's trying to shoot you and kill you. She just doesn't care. So Robin leaps from the Batwing and tackles Belson. The tank blows up. So now you know this place is going to blow, right? Of course, at the end of any movie, something's got to blow up, and this film obviously is no exception. So you know it's going to blow up. See, with all this trouble, I bet Freeze and Belson are up, so wishing they picked, one of the other matches now. It's like, I bet they're thinking, why did we have to pick Barbara Gordon? Like, there was at least about 18 matches there, and they just happened to pick, Barbara Gordon. So even though the place is blowing up, collapsing and shattering around them, Freeze is like, you still have to do the op, right? Freeze is not giving up. Freeze is determined to get the op done. Then part of the structure falls on him and his legs get broken. Even if they did the op and the place was still blowing up, what would Freeze have done? Does he still have the submarine? A helipad crashes and kills Belson as he's trying to sort of escape via a speedboat. So our crews sort of save Freeze, and then Batman and Barbara go back to get Nora and Kunak. Kunak's there. Kunak is there. I know I've mentioned this, but he just may as well not been in the movie, this little kid. You forget he's there half the time, and for some reason he's just going along with Freeze, and I don't know, he doesn't seem to question anything that Freeze is doing. He's just not fleshed out at all. That the kid in this, Kunak, really doesn't, he might as well just not be there completely. So no point to the character at all. So they get them to the Batwing safely, and Batman goes back to get Freeze. He, however, falls after Batman was trying to save him. The polar bears swimming shortly after, where Freeze's hand grabs hold of one of them. Bit of an emotion wait at the end, with it being announced on TV at this research post that Nora had the operation and it was a success. So you do see Freeze. You see the polar bears after the destruction of the rig, and you sort of see Freeze's hand sort of come up, implying that he did survive the wreckage and he did survive sort of what happened. But at the end of the movie, there is this little bit of emotional weight that they try and put in. As I say, it's announced on TV that, as I say, Nora's had the operation. It was a success thanks to Wayne Enterprises. And Victor sort of tearing up as he watches the report from outside this building through the glass of this research post. And what gets me is, though, with that scene, he's sort of outside, sort of in the snow, and there's these people watching like the news report on the TV, and I'm not sure how we can actually even see it or hear it or see that, like I say, see the picture clearly with the weather and the condensation. I'm sure, he couldn't hear it at all, but he seems to understand what's going on. Bearing in mind he's outside, the wind's blowing, it's snowing, all these kind of things. But he seems to understand. He tears up because she's been saved, and of course that was all he wanted to do. But they show it like, as I say, he can hear it, but he's watching from the outside. There's no follow-up scene either with Kunak as well. You don't realise, they explain about Nora having the operation, she's saved, and everything's all well and good. But and like I mentioned, if Freeze had just gone to the hospital anyway, why didn't you just go to the hospital? Why was he dead set against hospital and having to go through all this trouble to taking polar bears to Shaughnessy's and kidnapping and motorbike chases and oil rigs blowing up? It'd have been much easier to just say, I don't know why he didn't just go to Bruce, I need help, or go to the hospital, is there anybody that can help me? But he went through all of this. But going back to Kunak, the kid, there's no follow-up what happened to him, where he went, where he's living, after this happened to Freeze, where did he go? Just no follow up at all. As I say, the film is just over an hour and it passes the time. It's not brilliant by any means. There's a few things like sort of plot-wise that don't make all that much sense. I'm sure all you die-hard Batman aficionados will correct me on every single one of the sort of plot holes or things I sort of had problem with or pointed out. But as I say, it passes the time. It's obviously not as good as Mask of the Phantasm, but nonetheless, it plays more like if you just view this, as I mentioned, as like an extended episode, then I think you have a lot more to enjoy here, rather than looking at it as a big, huge sort of Batman animated production. Just view it as like an extended episode of the animated series, and I think that sort of takes the pressure off it a little bit, and you can enjoy it a lot more for what it is. But as I say, there's little things here and there that I sort of did raise an eyebrow at, like, does that make sense? Like I say, Barbara trying to escape again, the fact Freeze didn't take his wife to a hospital, the fact Kunat just sort of disappears, how long can polar bears hold their breath underwater, how did Freeze get to this rig, did he take the submarine, little things like that. The fact he just, like I say, revealed he just went for a mass kidnapping in a public place, little things where you think, was that in the best interest to do that in regards to your plan? Little plot convenience, like I say, like when the phone rings and Batman and Robin are there with the guy just as bells and rings. But it passes the time, as I say, and just view it as an extended episode, and you'll find a lot to enjoy here. I mean, you probably could say it's better than Batman and Robin the movie, and you can understand why, with the reception to that movie, why they did set this film back, being tied to it, because I think people would just associate, well, that film was bad, Batman and Robin was bad, here's another Batman Mr. Freeze vehicle, that's got to be bad as well. But as I say, not as epic or as grand as Mask of the Phantasm, but still a Batman movie that just passes the time and just kills an hour if you just want some Batman and Mr. Freeze shenanigans. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you again soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.